Marcus Aurelius, who was once the most powerful person in the known world, made it his mission to live a life that was virtuous and in accordance with the Stoic philosophy. In contrast to a great number of Roman emperors, he did not partake in a preponderance of pleasures, he did not drink an excessive amount of wine, and he did not watch sadistic events take place at the Colosseum. Marcus Aurelius was motivated by the aspiration to accomplish the mission that fortune had entrusted to him, which centered on providing assistance to people for their needs. Consequently, he had a strong dedication to accomplishing his goals and achieving his purpose. However, in order to accomplish this, he realized that it was necessary for him to lessen his concern for things that lacked wisdom or worthiness. Epictetus and Coridian provide a clear explanation of the schism that exists between things that we control and things that we do not control, which is one of the fundamental ideas that underpin Stoicism. For the most part, if not all of the things that are beyond our control, we have no control. Therefore, does this imply that we ought to give up the world? The Stoics believe that we ought to be realistic about the limited influence that we have on these things, although this is not necessarily the case. When life becomes too difficult for us, it is often a sign that we are focusing our feelings on things that are beyond our ability to control. When we do this, we unintentionally give these things the power to manipulate and control us in the same way that puppeteers do. In a paradoxical turn of events, we then point the finger of blame at these puppeteers for pulling our strings, but we fail to recognize that we have given them the authority to do so. Nevertheless, by disengaging our emotional investment in these matters, we are able to deprive them of their power over us, thereby granting ourselves the tranquility to remain undisturbed. Marcus Aurelius was able to deal with the numerous responsibilities and challenges he faced as an emperor, and to concentrate on the task that he believed he had been given by the gods, because he was unfazed by things that were beyond his control. It meant freedom for Epictetus. For other people, it could mean not being moved by external forces, or a selection of them. It could be a way to focus on goals that do matter, and for some people it could simply mean a path to a happy, carefree life. Epictetus was the first person to experience freedom. When we are experiencing pain in our lives, what are the things that we should stop doing to occupy ourselves? And more importantly, how can we do this? Marcus Aurelius's philosophy on how to care less about things that aren't worth caring about is the subject of this video, which is an exploration and free interpretation of that philosophy. A number of times throughout his work Meditations, Marcus Aurelius makes distinctions between the present, the past, and the future. There are valuable things that the ancient Roman emperor has to say about how we either care too much about them in the wrong ways, or about the wrong things. He has something to say about each of these categories. In order to provide clarity and structure, this essay has been broken down into the following categories, beginning with the future. As Seneca so eloquently articulated, we frequently experience more distress within the confines of our imagination than we do in the actuality of our experiences. In light of this assertion, the idea that our thoughts are the source of our suffering is brought into sharper focus. When we focus our attention on the future, our imaginations tend to run wild, giving rise to a plethora of scenarios of possible occurrences, the majority of which are highly improbable to take place. We are trembling with apprehension as we contemplate strategies to navigate these potential outcomes, all the while trembling in anticipation. This is because we are unsure of how the future will ultimately play out. There are times when the events that take place are exactly what we had anticipated, but there are also times when fortune takes us by surprise and overwhelms us with occurrences that we could not have anticipated. Take into consideration the following scenario. Each of us may have spent years meticulously planning and saving for a retirement that we have earned, only to be confronted, just as we are on the verge of entering our golden years, with a devastating cancer diagnosis that grants us only a few months to live. In many cases, individuals are thrown into a state of unending anxiety simply because the possibility of such events exists. The range of possible outcomes incorporates both the best-case scenario and the worst-case scenario, which are both possible outcomes. If a catastrophic Third World War breaks out, what would happen? What would happen if we suffered a total loss of financial resources? We are unable to deal with these dire consequences as long as they are not occurring in the present moment, because these events are simply not occurring, at least not yet. This is despite the fact that these dire consequences are undeniably within the realm of possibility. However, they are only present in our minds. Because it does not exist outside of the mind, the future is only something that causes us to be concerned because we think about it. It was Marcus Aurelius who emphasized that the weight that we carry is not the burden of the future, but rather the weight of the present moment alone. Instead, it is the way in which we are currently dealing with the future that determines the extent of our suffering. The future itself is not the source of our suffering. The anguish that is caused by events that will take place in the future actually takes place in the present. When we come face to face with the future, it is already the present. This is an ironic way of saying that the future does not unfold in the present. Therefore, the misery that is associated with the future is a result of the worries and preoccupations that we are currently focused on. When we obsess over the events that will occur in the future, life will eventually start to hurt us because we will suffer them in our imagination and allow them to dictate how we live in the present. In light of this, what does Marcus Aurelius have to say about worrying excessively about the future? Initially, let us take into consideration the following quotation: "Never allow the future to frighten you. If you are forced to confront it, that you will do so using the same rational weapons that you are using today to defend yourself against the present." He emphasized the idea that if he was able to successfully navigate the present, then he was also capable of facing the challenges that will be presented to him in the future. He counseled himself to refrain from dwelling on all of the potential terrible scenarios that could take place, and instead encouraged himself to concentrate on the circumstances that were occurring right at that moment. When he brought his attention to the here and now, he came to the realization that he was able to deal with it. If this is the case, then why wouldn't he be able to deal with what is still to come? This mindset is consistent with the concept of amor fati, which can be translated as love of fate. But it is bolstered by the confidence that we will be able to overcome it. Throughout his life, Marcus Aurelius has frequently reminded himself of the speed with which existence passes by and vanishes into the infinite that is beyond our reach. There is no way for us to operate in the past, just as there is no way for us to operate in the future. What has been gone is gone, and unless we invent a time machine, we will not be able to change anything about it. Marcus Aurelius made the following statement: "Remember that man lives only in the present, in this fleeting instant. All the rest of his life is either past and gone or not yet revealed." The life of a man is therefore brief, and the portion of the earth in which he resides is considered to be a narrow corner. We are frequently overly preoccupied with the areas that are outside of the present moment and cannot be entered, namely the future and the past, despite the fact that our lives are limited to the present moment, which is the only moment that occurs. According to Marcus Aurelius, the past is meaningless and has no bearing on the present. He also stated that the past is indifferent. It is not that things that have occurred in the past do not have an effect on the present, or that we are unable to gain knowledge from the events that have occurred in the past. Rather, it is that we are unable to work with the past because it is beyond our reach. On top of that, our memories of the past are frequently jumbled, and there are few ways to verify what exactly took place. Due to the fact that we rely on recollections that come from personal perspectives and different points of view related to ourselves or others, the past is not only inaccessible to us, but it is also highly likely that our recollection of it is inaccurate. In spite of this, we continue to feel an emotional attachment to events that occurred in the past, and we frequently allow ourselves to relive the agony that these events caused us in the past by replaying them in our minds. However, this is a fallacious illusion that is held by some people who believe that by thinking about the past, we might be able to exert some influence over future events. The past is an entity that cannot be retrieved. It has managed to escape our grasp and is no longer within our reach. The only thing that is still within our control is the ability to control our thoughts about something that has been gone for a very long time and will never come back. There are a lot of people who find themselves saying things like, "I wish I could have handled that differently." But the reality is that such wishes are based on things that are impossible to achieve. The sole purpose of these thoughts is to arouse desires that can never be satisfied, and they do not offer any benefits that are productive. As opposed to concentrating on the events of the past in and of themselves, Marcus Aurelius chose to concentrate on his response to those events. We are unable to control the events that have occurred in the past. It is highly likely that we were also unable to prevent them from occurring in the present. However, we are able to control how we position ourselves in relation to these events. In the beginning, we might think of the past as being unfortunate. We might have had a difficult childhood, or we might have experienced the end of friendships, or that our business endeavors were unsuccessful. However, Marcus Aurelius believes that the nature of these occurrences is not as significant as how we respond to them. What is important is how we deal with them. He made the following statement: "It's unfortunate that this has occurred. On the contrary, it is a fortunate occurrence that this has taken place, and I have not been harmed by it. The present does not break them, and they are not afraid of what the future holds." Anyone could have been affected by it, but not everyone would have been able to steer clear of the consequences of it. Instead of considering the other to be fortunate, why do you consider the first to be a misfortune? Does it even make sense to refer to something as a misfortune if it does not go against the nature of humans? Alternately, do you believe that something that does not go against the will of nature can break it? However, you are aware of what its will is. When it comes to acting with justice, generosity, self-control, sanity, prudence, honesty, humility, straightforwardness, and all the other qualities that allow a person's nature to fulfill itself, does what has happened prevent you from doing so? It is interesting to note that Marcus Aurelius did not completely disregard the significance of the past. Rather, he acknowledged the potential value of the past as a source of learning. Through the examination of the patterns and rhythms that exist within the past, as well as the way in which events have a tendency to ebb and flow, frequently repeating themselves, he believed that we can gain insights that will assist us in anticipating and preparing for the future. With this point of view, we are able to extrapolate from the past in order to gain a better understanding of what may be in store for us in the future. Marcus Aurelius frequently emphasizes that the present moment is the only domain that belongs to us. It is the restricted domain to which we have direct access within the moment. It provides us with a vantage point from which we are able to look into the incomprehensible obscurity of the future, as well as the boundless depths of the past. At all times, Marcus Aurelius remained steadfast in his determination to firmly establish himself in the present moment and to focus his attention on the things that were within his sphere of influence the present moment. Nevertheless, even when we are successful in releasing our hold on the past and lowering our concerns about the future, we frequently discover that we are focusing an excessive amount of our anxiety on issues that are not of genuine significance, issues that are taking place right in front of our very eyes at this very moment. There are times when we are dissatisfied with the way life is unfolding in the here and now, and when things do not go according to our expectations, it is common for us to give in to feelings such as anger, sadness, or despair. However, Marcus Aurelius believes that it is a waste of time to allow ourselves to be emotionally disturbed by the things that fortune brings our way. It is not up to us to determine how the world around us develops. What is up to us is how we respond to it. In spite of this, we have a tendency to become agitated either because we do not like what is occurring or because the things that we desire to occur do not occur. According to Marcus Aurelius, we should not fight what we are compelled to fight. He compared people who struggle with fortune to pigs that kick and squeal when they are sacrificed. We are unable to avoid what the gods have in store for us, so it is pointless to try. There is nothing that can be done to stop people from wanting to fight wars. There is nothing that can stop natural disasters from occurring, and there is nothing that can stop our bodies from aging. In a similar vein, we are unable to force the world to satisfy our whims and wishful thinking. There is no assurance that the people to whom we are attracted will feel the same way about us, and there is also no guarantee that every person will have the same opportunities in life. Even though this is an inherent impossibility, we frequently waste a significant amount of time and energy trying to fight against the unchangeable aspects of reality, which are things that we are unable to alter under any circumstances, regardless of the strategies that we have available to us. When we are confronted with circumstances that we do not want, our feelings fluctuate between anger and sadness. This is because our desires are not being fulfilled. As a consequence of this, the present moment transforms into a torturous chamber in which we are forced to endure the capricious whims of fortune. On the other hand, there are times when we find ourselves becoming obsessed with the present moment, clinging to it with all our might, out of fear of giving up what we already have of our own. We once again give up control to the whims of fortune, but because we are so completely entangled in everything that is going on around us, everything that is fleeting and uncontrollable, we are frequently unable to appreciate what is truly in our control: our decisions, our actions, and our opinions. As far as Marcus Aurelius was concerned, the natural law was our master. We are nothing more than deserters and fugitives if we try to escape it, if we feel grief or anger about it, or if we run away from it. We should not waste our energy being disgusted by or clinging to our circumstances. Rather, we should accept the ways of nature, embrace them, and concentrate on dealing with them. Marcus Aurelius, in the 7th book of his Meditations, shared a technique that can be utilized to successfully embrace the present moment. In his argument, he suggested that we should shift our attention away from focusing on what we do not have and instead concentrate on what we do have. On the other hand, he suggested that this strategy be approached with caution. Treat what you don't have as if it no longer exists, he said in his own words. When you consider what you already possess and the things that are most important to you, try to imagine how much you would miss them if you were deprived of them. Nevertheless, exercise caution and make sure that you do not experience such an excessive level of satisfaction that you start to overestimate their value to the point where the loss of them would cause you distress. In spite of this, accepting one's circumstances can be a significant obstacle, particularly when one is confronted with significant challenges. When we are presented with a string of lemons by life, it is possible to question whether or not it is unreasonable to request a break. Marcus Aurelius, on the other hand, argued that adversity should not be used as a justification for acting in a manner that is similar to that of animals that are distressed and panicked. Instead, he asserted that these kinds of challenges are opportunities to practice virtue, which, in essence, refers to the implementation of Stoic philosophy in one's daily life. The splendor and fortune of our external circumstances are not the essence of living, because these aspects are inherently capricious, fragile, and beyond our control. The significance of living does not revolve around these aspects. The Stoics believed that the way in which we responded to the events that were taking place in front of us was the element that truly mattered. In his statement, Marcus Aurelius expressed his belief that this should be our primary concern. He stated, "Because to me the present is a chance for the exercise of rational virtue, civic virtue, or, to put it another way, the art that men share with gods." Both of them view whatever occurs as holy and natural, not something that is novel or difficult to deal with, but something that is familiar and easy to handle. That is all there is to say for today. Your enjoyment of this video is my sincere hope. In that case, you should think about subscribing to the channel. Please make sure that you check the link that is included in the first comment below. If you have watched the entire thing, please leave a comment that says "Dare me" so that I can find out. All of the comments will be read by me. Please accept my sincere gratitude for your attention. You are in the presence of the Creator.